Our next speaker almost needs no introduction. I will just tell you that Tim and I have a bit of a history. Actually, back in the mid-90s, his firm invested in a company called Real Names. For those of you from China, you might not know this, but Real Names invented the ability to use Chinese language in a web browser. So when you type Chinese now in a web browser and you go to a web page, that was Real Names, and Tim's firm backed Real Names. So we go back quite a number of years. Tim is a very important person, and not for the reasons you might think. It's very rare in an investor to get it right many times. Some people get it right once or twice. There's a lot of luck involved. Tim's got it right many, many times and through different eras. And he does that because he's a great listener and he's a great believer in entrepreneurialism. And he's a great thinker that can put together the moment and the future and start to understand how the bits of the jigsaw will fit together. That's a rare skill and a rare talent. And he's been applying it to the blockchain for quite some time now after successes with Hotmail, with Skype, and with many others. So Tim, come on up, and looking forward to listening to what you got to say.
Terrific. This worked, yeah. Well, Keith was really the one who invented Real Names. So every time you type in a Chinese character, think of Keith. The entrepreneurs really get the short shrift on the credit. Somehow venture capitalists, just because we keep being there, we get more credit than is due. You know, this is such an amazing time in our history. This is so exciting. Not just because that there's AI and the blockchain and those things that are coming together, just that we're starting into a part of we're changing as humans. There's a part of us that is still going to be land-based and connected in that land way. But there's another part of us that's going to be virtual. And that virtual part is going to explode in all of the different possibilities that come from becoming virtual. And I got sort of a window on this when I got behind Bitcoin, and I thought, wow, this is decentralized and it's virtual money. It's not tied to some political force or another, and people can move it anywhere they want. They can download it from here, or they can be in Jamaica, or they can be in Amsterdam. They can be anywhere, and they can pull down their Bitcoin and they can use it. Well, Bitcoin also stemmed many other technologies that are now kind of all starting to come together in this way. Oh, and by the way, I love the name of the Global Disruptive Innovation Summit because we are now global. We are decentralized. That maybe you need two Ds in there. The world is being disrupted, and people are reacting to it in a lot of different ways. It's really interesting to see, but it's also, it makes sense if you start thinking about what could potentially happen here. Let's say you've got now a decentralized currency, Bitcoin, and all of the other Bitcoin-like currencies out there. You have a blockchain, which means that you are keeping a perfect ledger. And that ledger can be for money, but it can also be for data. It can be for any number of different things. And then you've got smart contracts, which means that we can make a deal, put it into a contract, and that contract is just going to be fulfilled in software, and we don't need a whole bunch of lawyers around it. So for me, I started to think about this from venture capital's point of view, and I said, wow, so I can raise a venture fund that's all Bitcoin. I invest in all these companies in Bitcoin. They pay their suppliers and their employees in Bitcoin, and I never have to talk to an accountant or a lawyer because I can because all of the accounting's done on the blockchain, just purely done, and the contracts are all built into software. And so all of that, all the distributions, when the company is sold, when the company goes public, all the distributions of shares, that can all be built into software. So that's my own industry. We are being disrupted. We're being transformed. The venture capital business, in Q3 of last year, there was more money raised in these ICOs, which are like Bitcoin knockoffs, than there was in venture capital. So more entrepreneurs were raising money this way than in the old way. Okay, so my industry is being transformed, and I'm aware of it, and I'm excited about it. But there are much bigger industries being transformed. All of finance is being changed. All of insurance, all of banking, commerce, they're all going to be changed. We don't have to have currencies that are tied to sort of some political force or not. This friend of mine that I met through my son's accelerator boost said, he's from Argentina, and he said, my family's fortune has disappeared 3 times in my life just due to currency manipulation, by the government. And I said, wow, that's really rough. And he said, yeah, and I'm only 30 years old, so every 10 years there is some kind of a government, where they print too much money, or they go too deeply in debt, or something happens. And even in this country, we're still at the mercy of this central bank, this Federal Reserve. If they raise the interest rates too fast, the economy goes into the tank. If they raise them, if they keep them too low, we hyperinflate. We don't need that. We're global now. We're open. Here's the other thing that's going to change is, well, healthcare. Healthcare for one, and I saw a good healthcare entrepreneur just earlier today. I believe that healthcare is going to change in this way. You're going to control your own data. You're going to anonymously put it up into the cloud. But if anybody wants your data, you can sell that to them. So you're going to get money, somewhat like what you just saw in deep brain chain. You're going to, but then that data is going to be incredibly valuable. It's not just going to be what your medical history is, or your blood test results, or your genetic history. It's going to have all of that. But then it's going to have your Fitbit results, what you had for breakfast, who you met, where you've traveled. It's going to have all sorts of data that you don't even know what the data is. So if we both had a headache, normally a doctor just says, take 2 aspirin, call me in the morning. This new cloud doctor says to you, take 2 aspirin, but to me it says, well, wait, you've been on Fire Island and you got a tick bite. It's likely you have Lyme tick. You should be taking antibiotics. This is a whole new way of handling healthcare. And doctors may be more consultants, because there's no doctor in the world that could memorize enough data in 12 years to become as good a doctor as the cloud's going to be, because it's going to have much more information, much more data. But the one that's really interesting to me is that governments are going to change. The guys at Binance, they started in China, and they built this billion-dollar business in China, and then the Chinese government said, Bitcoin's illegal here and no ICOs, and the guys built a business on trading Bitcoin and ICOs. And he said, well, wait, what do I do? And Japan immediately puts their hand up and says, hey, Bitcoin's a national currency here, and you can do an ICO here. But Binance went to Singapore, where Singapore's always been very good and deregulated in business. He went to Singapore, and then they started to put regulation hooks into him. And he decided to go to Malta, where Malta was saying, come here, yeah, you can do what you need to do. So you're seeing government starting to compete in this virtual space. And this virtual space includes regulations. It includes taxation. It includes your health care insurance and your pensions. All of that can be done virtually. You can start choosing the government that's right for you. You could have your pension, your Social Security in Chile. You could have your health care insurance come from Canada, and you could have your welfare program set up in a country that hasn't even been invented yet. It's like 10 miles offshore, or 11 miles offshore, or up in space. This is the future of government. So what's happening? All the small countries are starting to say, wow, this is interesting. Come here. Come here. This is going to be awesome. We're blockchain central. Come to Puerto Rico. Come to Malta. Come to Gibraltar. Come to Cayman. You don't even have to come to our country. Just be a part of our country. I'm meeting with a Prime Minister of Estonia today, but the last Prime Minister came to Draper University, the school for entrepreneurs that we created, and he hands me a card and he says, well, first, just by using digital signatures, we saved 2% of our GDP. And then we did digital voting. All the young people started to vote. Then we did digital identity, and the crime rate went down, the business climate improved, and here, you're now a digital virtual citizen of Estonia. And all of a sudden it hit me, and I went, oh, you're competing. You're just like businesses are competing. You're competing. You want people here. You want money. You want entrepreneurs. You want businesses. You want citizens. And you don't care if they actually visit your property. You want them to be a part of you. All of a sudden, it just dawned on me, all of them are starting to have to compete for us. So two things are happening. The smaller countries, most of them, are saying, come here. We will deregulate. We'll do what it takes. We'll make sure that it's a great business climate for you. You can run your business through here. You don't even have to set foot in our country. Some of the bigger countries are saying, wait, we like the fiefdom. We like this control we have over people. We use our currency to control our people. And they're the ones that are creating trade wars, and they're the ones that are kind of messing with the economy right now. And so you're looking at this time where we know that the future is decentralized. We know that the future has to do with borders that dissolve eventually. It's one big world, but there are still people trying to hang on to that. So you're seeing very interesting things happen. You're seeing attacks on our heroes from our government. So our governments are trying to attack our heroes. They're taking down Zuckerberg, they're taking down Elon Musk, they're taking down Elizabeth Holmes. They're taking down all of these big, amazing heroes, because those heroes are the future. They're building a future that these people who like this fiefdom government are trying to keep away from. Something's very interesting. If I go up to somebody and I'm doing some sort of a contract, any kind of a contract, let's say I'm buying a car. If I'm buying a car from somebody and they're, let's say, I'm going to be ageist here, if they're younger than 35 years old, and I say, can I pay in Bitcoin? All of the ones younger than 35 years old will say, yes, we will take Bitcoin. If they're over 35 years old, they're going to say, I want dollars. And what's really interesting here is that those 35-year-olds are getting older, and people like me are dying off. And as we die off and they get older, we're going to be decentralized. They believe in one world. They believe that these are open borders. They look and they sit in the DMV line, or they sit in customs, and they say, how do we get rid of this? That's what they're thinking. Whereas the fiefdom people are saying, how do we keep it the way it is? And that battle is going to continue until people my age start dying off. But we're really going to have a very interesting time. And you, as entrepreneurs, can drive this transformation. And as an entrepreneur, you can drive a peaceful transformation. This doesn't have to be a war. This has to be a system of education. We need to educate these people who are living back in the past. And if we do, we are going to see a future that where the entire world is lifted up and wealthy and strong and interconnected, and we're going to get the best of everyone on the planet. This is really an exciting time, and it's really up to you guys to do it. So thank you very much for having me here. I love global, I love disruption, and I love innovation. So thanks, Keith, and you guys are great.
Stay there a minute, Tim. Stay there a minute.
Okay.
So, I loved your point about borders fading away.
Well, they already started to dissolve when the internet came, because we saw that with Hotmail and Skype and some of the companies that we backed. They were already starting to dissolve. And I write about this in my book, by the way. Get my book. It's called How to Be the Startup Hero, and it's good reading for any of you who are going out and kind of doing something entrepreneurial.
So
anyway, what's the question?
So no question. We have something for you. Angie, do you want to come up?
Oh, thank you.
You can speak.
I can speak, okay.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Yeah. You'll get the Outstanding Investor of the Year.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you very
Tim
much.
is the well, if he'd invested in my idea, it would be even more outstanding. But
I'm amazed I got this, Keith. You're on the board of this, and I still haven't backed you, but I got Outstanding Investor of the Year. Yay! Thank you.
yeah. By the way, that was my British sense of humor. Congrats.